And where did Frederick Engels get his money from? Well, his father was a capitalist, an industrialist. So here's a question for you. Why would his father, who is a very wealthy person, give Engels a lot of money to give to Marx? And Marx is calling for a world revolution to destroy the capitalists. Why would they do that? Okay, that's kind of strange. And the third thing is that at this time, socialism was the most dominant ideology for many reasons. Okay, and the idea of socialism is that it will evolve naturally. Okay? But Marx says, no. We cannot allow it to evolve naturally. It will not evolve naturally. We need a revolution. Okay? We need a world revolution. All right? So that's a question for us. Why would he say this? Okay? So let's look at what socialism is, and then let's look at what communism is. Okay? Let's look at socialism. All right, the idea of socialism is pretty simple. All right, so before you had a feudal society, and then it became industrial. Because it becomes industrial, you have lots and lots of workers. Okay? And you have capitalists. The problem, though, is that capitalism exploits labor. It makes people very unhappy. Okay, so the workers want change. Then you have the industrialists, the capitalists. The problem is that capital consolidates, okay? So maybe you have 1,000 capitalists to start, but then maybe 10 will take over all the money, okay? All the means of production, the factories. Then maybe one, okay? Because that's how capitalism works. It consolidates. Which means that eventually the capitalists will turn against capitalism as well, okay? And because of democracy, because people can vote, they can then together affect political change. And this will lead to socialism. And what is socialism? Socialism is just a redistribution of wealth. Okay? A redistribution of wealth. Now, let's, for the sake of simplicity, say there are three classes, okay? You have the rich, you have the middle class, and you have the poor. Okay? Right? So all redistribution is doing is taking the money from the rich and giving it to the poor. You understand? But because of this, what happens is the middle class improves in status and power. Okay? So if you look at the system, you would think, okay, look, the poor want this system because they have more money, they have more equality, but also the people who really want the system are the middle class because it means that over time they have more power and status than the rich, right? And this is a pretty powerful coalition. And that's why socialists believe that over time, this is a natural evolution. And this is true for most of human history, right? So after World War II, Europe didn't become communist, it didn't become capitalist, it became socialist. It had a very strong welfare system, okay? So just the natural course of human history, socialism will become inevitable. Okay, does that make sense to you guys? Okay, because this is the majority of people. But Marx had problems with this, okay? Marx says, okay, all right, the major problem with this is false consciousness. Okay? You think that this is a natural process, but capitalists, the ruling elite, have a lot of tricks up their sleeves, okay? For example, they can brainwash the workers, right? So for this to work out, you need to create true consciousness. So you need to destroy religion. You need to revamp the education system. You need to control the media, okay? Otherwise, the capitalists will use the schools, the media, religion to brainwash the workers. And also, these workers need to unite together across the world to have true power, okay? Why? Because the real struggle is one of class. okay, consciousness. And for socialism to arise, we need to destroy class, okay? So the idea of the middle class obtaining power, that's bad. What we should have is just everyone the same, okay? Equality. Alright? And that's the idea of Marxism, to destroy all property, okay? That's the main difference between socialism and communism. Socialism is the redistribution of property. Communism is the destruction of property. But if you do it this way, what happens is that the middle class now lose status, right? And so it's both the rich and middle class that suffer under communism, and therefore they will probably unite together against the poor. You understand? So it sounds similar, socialism and communism, but it's night and day. Socialism seems like the natural evolution of things, okay? And so it sounds right. So why is Marx screwing around this, okay? He also says that, okay, you also need a party. You also need a vanguard, an elite, to destroy the false consciousness, unite the workers, and create a common society. And when they do that, when system is completely communist, then the party will give up power and you will have a socialist paradise. But then the question then is, why would the party give up power? Right? So if the party is capable of creating consciousness, why don't they just switch to a different false consciousness? Okay? So the problem with Marx is that it's working on socialism and making it more extreme. It's also making it more confusing. And why would he do that? Okay? It's very confusing now. Alright? And my argument to you is that when this happens, when an idea becomes more extreme, the intention is to discredit it, to make it illegitimate, to destroy the idea. Alright? So, if you think about it, according to game theory, the people responsible for communism is not Marx. The people responsible for communism are the capitalists, the ruling elite. Because they want to destroy the idea of socialism. Right? They don't want this unity between the middle class and the workers. They want